back to Reclaiming a World That Works. And this is the place where we have a lot of amazing conversations about how, as we reclaim our humanity and who we are and our values and what makes us uniquely human, we also begin to take on amazing possibilities in how we lead the world around us. And so today I am so excited because I had promised that we would have Kara make it back for a part two of our conversation that we had around neurodivergency, around leadership, around coaching as a neurodivergent leader, coaching for neurodivergent
Mhm.
clients. A whole amazing conversation is going to roll out in front of us, and I'm really excited. So, Kara, welcome to the
Thank
conversation today.
you. Thanks for having me back.
It is such a pleasure. We got such great response and feedback from our last conversation. And so I feel really honored that we get to have this conversation, number one, and I just want to acknowledge that. I have the privilege of working and coaching with you through our whole human collective and
Yes.
of seeing you in action and experiencing the brilliance of your coaching and your leadership. And so I want to just start this conversation with that. It's a pleasure
Thank
to be able to have
you.
this
Thank
conversation with you.
you. I receive it. Thank you. Such an
Yes,
honor.
please. Thank you. Kara, this is this might seem like a bit of a kind of dialing it back kind of question,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the actual concept of neurodivergency and understanding of it can actually, I think, be intimidating. I don't know if that's the right word or
Yeah.
not that I would use
Yes. Yeah.
for people to be able to know how to meet it as leaders, or maybe if they may have inclinations of maybe there's neurodivergency in how they're processing as well. So I'm wondering if you could help us. Let's start first there with describing and helping us understand and establish what it actually means when we talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. And I really appreciate this because I do feel like that is a very neuro-inclusive tip for
Mm,
all of us to remember that defining our taking the time to make sure that we're using words in the same
mhm,
way can go a long way to creating better experiences for everyone. So
mm.
clarity up front is incredible. So thanks
Yeah.
for inviting that. Okay, so some of the things that I feel like get big words that get thrown around that could use some lay definitions are neurodiversity, neurotypical, and
Mhm.
neurodivergent. So first up, neurodiversity. It's the whole range of human experiences and the way that our brains and nervous system receive information from the world, experience the world, and communicate out, right? Like it's all of us. It's the population, the whole range and variance of human brains and
Mhm.
processing styles in this case, right?
Okay.
So that's the kind of like the umbrella term for all of us. Typical, and this does come from literature, is someone that whose brain functions in a way that society expects, right? Their way that they think, the way that they receive sensory input, the way they experience emotions, they are all aligned with the way of our societal
Mm.
norms.
Okay.
And neurodivergent is all of us that have a different experience in terms of the way that we interact with the world,
Mhm.
process information, experience cognition, emotion, sensory stuff. And there's a big umbrella under it. So it's not neurotypical, neurodivergent. Neurodivergent is it encompasses a range of different, some people would say conditions. I'm going to use the term neurotypes, which
Mhm.
just means ways that your brains think and
Okay.
process.
Okay.
So like ADHD, autism, these things that you've probably heard of, but
Yeah.
also dyslexia, dyscalculia, OCD, Tourette syndrome. So it's a
Okay.
big umbrella of the way that our
Mm.
brains work
Okay.
and process information. So
Okay.
neurodiversity is all of us, big
Yeah.
population,
Yeah.
variance, neurotypical,
Yeah.
neurodivergent, but also there's a whole bunch of people under that umbrella.
Yeah,
Is that
for sure.
helpful?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Actually, that's
Okay.
super helpful because what I find is we don't know what we don't know. And then you
Absolutely.
can get so far down a conversation where some people it may feel awkward for them to even
The
ask.
language,
The
it
language,
feels
the
like
language can trip you up.
intimidating.
It feels very intimidating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Lots of people describe neurodivergent people as neurodiverse, and I'm not going to go ahead and correct that. Like, I know
Yeah.
what you mean, because
Yeah.
correcting that might be inviting them out of the conversation. I want you, so I
Yeah.
want to say it up front just so that you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah.
watching this feels more comfortable, just so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, please enter in the conversation. We would rather have you in it and learn together.
Right. Ooh, that's a really great way to say that. So I'm curious. As a neurodivergent person,
Mhm.
leader, I would love to hear a story actually, just to start, because I love stories.
Sure.
I would love to hear about a time when you were in either in a coaching conversation, someone was coaching you, or it was in a leadership capacity, but
Hmm.
how that was facilitated allowed you to feel seen, but beyond that, feel that this truly was an open space for me.
Okay. My, I love this conversation. It
Mm,
just gives me joy. My very first experience with leadership coaching personally
mhm,
was more than a decade ago. And my coach's name, it was and is Marsha Connor, and I just give her so much credit. She is a learning expert. Knows she was my leadership coach, but she was also part of my life in my organization and was able to observe me in different ways. So she was an advisor to the leadership development program that we ran. She was somebody who came in and gave trainings to our staff on different ways of learning. She never used the terms neurodivergent. She
mhm,
simply taught us all of the different ways that human brains work.
mm,
That's going to be relevant. So she got to see me in action in different ways. She got to see me how I showed up in meetings. She got to see how I led portions of the agenda, either from the stage or from the meeting room. And we did some one-on work together in coaching. And back then, I was trying to, everybody's like personal brand. Like, okay, let me figure out what my personal brand is. Just create some buckets. And my work was in equitable leadership, right? Equity, diversity, inclusion plus leadership development, kind of the intersections. Just pick some buckets, things that you're good at that you want to be really known for speaking on and talking about. I must have made this list of buckets 100 times. I'm like, well, there's this aspect and there's this. I don't understand. And it never resonated with me. I'm just making a list of things. It
mhm.
didn't make any sense to me. So I brought this to coaching with Marsha, and she would listen to me. And at some point, she said, I have a suggestion for you. I wonder what it would look like, because when I would describe to her, I don't know, I could talk about how white women show up in anti-racist spaces. I could
Mhm,
talk about these different aspects of the work, but I couldn't find like an organizing principle. It didn't make
mhm,
any sense to me. Why am I picking these three things instead of these three things? Everything seems interrelated for equitable leadership. And I was just lost.
mhm,
Why is this easy for everyone else?
mm,
So her invitation, she just said, well, Kara, I wonder if you would want to try this. What if you grabbed, a notebook or voice notes or index cards or whatever it is, and start to notice down like a quote that you like or a funny interaction that you had or whatever it is. And then as you gather those over time, then you start to pull out the themes. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds doable. Content analysis, I'm always good at that. Doesn't sound like a lot, but what she was actually doing, because she is actually an expert in how people learn, she
mhm.
never said, huh, I think you sound autistic. Has
Right,
anybody told you you sound autistic?
right.
Because what she was clocking is that I have what's known as bottom-up processing.
Okay.
So for me, and for anyone listening to this, bottom-up processing is like a jigsaw puzzle where you're handed the puzzle and all of the pieces, but there's no picture on the top of the box. And it's up to us. So we're just like sitting here. So it's not we would love a picture, but we don't have it. So we're sorting things into colors and shapes and slowly building out the puzzle together and being like, what is that? Is that a duck? And trying to
Yeah.
see what emerges from the puzzle by looking at every single piece of the puzzle as it's coming together. We're not building toward the known picture that's already on the box, which is the way that everybody typically makes puzzles. We just weren't given the box top,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
still our responsibility to put together the picture. So we find meaning that emerges from details. It's a processing style. It's not common, and it's not I don't speak for every neurodivergent person, but it's very common in the autism community. Marcia never said, "Hey, do you think you could get tested?" She never said that.
Right.
She
Mhm.
never Nate. She never said bottom up processing style. She
Right.
just said,
Right.
I wonder what it would be like if you tried a different method of finding your way.
Wow,
And
that's
so
really
I
interesting.
say that as a incredibly somebody who's really attuned and
Mhm.
understands. But I have another example for you, which is
Mm.
people who don't have a deep necessarily understanding of different processing styles, but still did the same thing for me, which is coaching with people who understand I need a little bit more room in the agreement and contracting stage. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, even
Yeah.
though I'm a coach and I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I should be coming in and saying, Crystal, I have a hard conversation that I need to have next week, and I'd like to walk away with bullet points and
Mhm.
feel more confident going in. It's not how it works for me. I will go, Crystal, I'm amazed to see you. I have this conversation next week. I also have three new direct reports, and they're all different. Oh, and my dad's a stroke survivor, and how do we like? There's stuff going on in my family, and I just need to bring it all. And I've had coaches that will work with me not to just say, okay,
Mm.
which of these seem important to you right now? They will let me go a little bit further. Okay, that
Right.
feels like a lot you're carrying.
Yeah.
And let that agreement stage go on longer than we're taught until something clearly emerges from the conversation that this is most important
Oh
that
my
we need to
gosh.
focus on. And then they'll help me focus there,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
just let me process it through. That's the same thing. It's working with bottom-up
Yeah.
processing without any of the nomenclature
Oh,
or even the
this
theory.
is so, this is really fascinating because I have had those conversations with people,
Yes,
but I
yes,
didn't put those two things together. So it
yes,
totally
yes,
makes sense. That totally makes sense.
yes. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
following your client.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I always say there are small things we can do as leaders and coaches
Yeah.
that adapt and just let people just follow your client and give them a
Yeah.
little bit more grace. You don't
Yeah.
have to have all the answers, but maybe if you notice you have a really verbal processing client,
Yeah.
it's not a thing to fix. It's just a
Right.
thing to stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So this is so good. This also helps then make sense for this question I have for you.
Okay.
I recently read, and forgive me because I cannot reference the exact place that I read it, but around how there is often, how would I say it, like a predisposition maybe is the word that I use with perfection, but not in the way like everything needs to be perfect, but like this detail needs to be perfect, or maybe to get before you can move on to the next one. Does
Oh, sure,
does
sure,
that
sure.
can you help us under that? Sorry, that is one of the ways that neurodivergency you can help as a leader
Yeah,
recognize
yeah,
that so
yeah.
you can help lead people. And
Yes,
so can you help us kind of unpack that and
yes,
how a
yeah.
leader, for example, if I had a neurodivergent team member and and I see that happening and I know that there's a way that we can help almost make a smoother, maybe make that process smoother for them. What would be your suggestion?
Okay. So I'm going to take a couple of step backs.
Yeah.
First of all, I love this conversation. It resonates deeply with me. And I have an answer. And
Mhm.
I want to say, I'm guessing that this phenomenon probably has multiple
Yeah.
drivers,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
That behavior, I have a couple of neurotypes that I would associate it more. So I just want to acknowledge again,
Mhm.
neurodivergent, huge umbrella.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to fall under that. It
Yeah.
seems a little bit closer to maybe the autism experience. And there's
Mhm.
lots of diversity. So I
Yeah.
just feel like it's important to name that. And I have a couple, of course I do, systems
Mhm.
explanations.
Yes.
One with perfectionism relates to that puzzle without the box top
Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
right? For most of us moving through our lives, if we are bottom-up thinkers and we haven't been given our box tops, then it's really difficult to tell what the standard is. So if everybody, it feels like everybody else is walking around with their puzzle picture and won't show it to us. And we're like, wait, does yours have a duck?
Oh,
Mine has a robin. Does yours have, what bird do you have? And it's constantly like
Wow.
checking to be. So
Yeah.
when there's, and everybody's like, it's just a bird, Kara. Why are you asking so many questions? All right, I'm gonna make this duck. And because I think it's a duck. I don't
Right.
know. So you
Yeah.
just kind of, when the standard is not clear, we will constantly improve and improve and
Oh,
improve because no one has showed us that the pixelated whatever bird is fine, is good enough, is okay. So people are like, why are you doing too much? Well, where's the line? We're just trying to go with what we hear. We're going with live feedback with like, all right, well, if there's
right.
room for improvement, there's room for improvement. Where is good enough? We have not established socially as a
Okay.
team, as a
Okay.
leader,
Right.
the clarity of what good enough looks
Right.
like.
Okay.
So
So then I'm
that's a
working,
perfectionism chat. Yeah,
and I'm
yes.
working off the last piece of information that I
Oh,
got. So
100%, a hundred
I
percent. The
don't want to
last time I got
scrape. Okay.
praise, or
Yeah.
like, or that it
Yeah.
worked, or it resonated, or whatever
Yeah.
success
Yeah.
looked like, that's my pattern mapping. So I'm going up. That's my box top because I didn't get one.
Right.
So I'm going. Oh, I remember that last one. See, I don't know, I had a duck or a robin or some bird. So I'm gonna try that, and I'm gonna
Right.
keep trying until I'm getting that. I do think is in play, and I will relate it to leadership in this way.
Sure.
We're phenomenal individual contributors. We're
Mhm.
known for our subject matter expertise,
Yeah.
special interest, deep, deep knowledge, and this piece of like constant improvement. And it can be really difficult to switch into a leadership role because of that, because we're praised and we will, that same level of grind is often we expect we need to bring that with us. And it can be incredibly difficult transition to go from, I have all of this deep subject matter, like with anybody else, I have
Yeah.
this deep subject matter
Right.
expertise. And now I'm expected to lead and show everybody the picture on the box, right? So I'm just naming that part can be
Oh,
very
this is,
difficult
yeah.
translation
Yeah. Yeah. So
and why it can
helpful.
feel perfectionism. Because
Yeah.
you're used to being like, well, nobody else can see the stupid picture either. So I'm just
Right.
gonna do it because I need to get it
Yes.
done.
Yeah. Because it needs to be done. And yes. Okay. This is so interesting because I think that even as you're saying that, I think people will who are listening can probably recognize that either in themselves
Mhm.
or in leaders that they've worked with. And
Sure.
often and this is the double-edged sword, and we work with this so often in coaching when we're
Yeah.
working with
Yeah.
leaders. People can be given almost leadership they can be given leadership roles without, first of all,
Oh,
without clarity.
absolutely.
Like like
Absolutely.
you've got to be like it has to be a universal
Yep.
fit somehow for
Yes.
leadership roles.
Yes.
And so you're
Yes.
asking for a universal fit from someone who's highly specialized in certain ways. And it's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
it's not going
Yes.
to translate the same
Without support, it can
without
very,
support,
but
right?
it's the support and helping of the
Yeah.
translation that
Yeah.
is, and may I offer
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
another potential systemic reason. I don't have the exact stats on this, but I do know that I speak from the science, which
Hmm.
is those of us with neurodivergence are typically corrected or shamed or told, you're too much, you're doing too much, you're too sensitive. Why are you doing that? Get down, stop doing that. And our behavior is constantly corrected. So that can lead to situations where we are anticipating being understood all the time.
Ooh.
So it can come through as perfectionism or control
Yeah.
when it's like, I need to anticipate everything because otherwise I'm going to be misunderstood or I won't be perceived well or all
Mhm.
of those things. So it can come across as perfectionism
Yeah.
because I need to be able and anxiety is a off first of all, one, very common for all of these experiences
Yeah.
for some of these reasons, and two, can be often a reason for misdiagnosis. People will
Mhm.
just say, generalized anxiety disorder when there's actually some neurodivergence in the
Mhm.
package. Not true
Yeah.
for everybody, but
Right.
it does make it more complicated. So it
Yeah.
might present as an anxious anxiety type of thing, and it's labeled as rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which this is just Kara speaking. I
Mhm.
hate because it puts it on the person like we've
Yeah.
got the issue when really we really have been exposed to more social correction in all areas of our life for all of our lifetime. So we have adapted by
Yeah.
being able to be like, okay, I understand what's acceptable and not acceptable,
Yeah.
and more likely to be more received as more
Yeah.
perfectionist.
Yeah. I could totally see it, the situation, the position, or like being put in those positions causes anxiety, but
Yes,
anxiety is not
yes,
the
yes.
root
Thank you.
of
You
what's
you
happening,
named
right?
it.
So the anxiety is
Or
real.
maybe it's
Or
cyclical,
maybe it's
right?
so chicken and egg that it's you can't necessarily separate them, and
Yes,
there's like that's a
yes, yes.
yeah,
We
like
have to
that's
own our stuff too.
yeah, sure.
That's absolutely true. But I
Yeah.
do feel like it's definitely us in a constant relationship with the system that
Mhm.
creates these things, and we use individualistic language that makes it be like, you neurodivergent person
Right.
need to stop being a perfectionist or stop being whatever fill in the
Mhm.
blank
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
I say that to say, I think there are systematic drivers, and the answer is I don't have an easy answer. I have an answer of knowing yourself brings some relief and maybe a less intensity and drive to make sure that everything is palatable and understandable by everyone. When you can
Right.
just, because less is more, like that's weird to us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's
If I,
weird
yeah,
for
please.
anybody, right? That
Yeah,
less
yeah,
is
yeah.
more because in our mind we're trying to give more understanding, and to us
That's
the
it.
understanding, all the details are relevant to
Matter.
they matter. Yeah. Yeah. So you said something really interesting, that you talked about how it's an individual, like, how did you say it? That it can feel like the individual is called out because when things are
Yes, I think it's a
defining.
systems issue and we
Yeah.
make it about
Right. Which
individuals.
is
Yeah.
so much right there. That is enough of a concept for universal liberation
Yes,
for all
yes,
people, right? Like that
yes.
we are, yes, we are individuals, but we are never individuals that are just floating
Correct.
disconnected to
Interdependence
anything
is
else.
part of being
There's
a human. Yeah.
interdependency is a part of being human. So I am curious, when you think about, for you as Kara, and being aware of your actual neurodivergent superpower,
Yeah.
where can you tell us a story about how when you actually just leaned into it, it really, I don't know, served you well,
Yeah.
is like maybe how a way I'd say, but like you were, when you look back, you're like, wow, that was really useful, or it really brought a different dimension to something.
Okay. I think so. And you can tell me how close I'm getting to this. It's one of the things that I'm really proud of that I bring to coaching and relationships. Well, I do two, I would say one, pattern recognition, just in case we haven't said this already, is a superpower for people, many people, and that kind of is that is an incredible part of coaching. And so pattern recognition, I just need to acknowledge as has served me incredibly well. But also this, we not there are so there's cognitive differences, there's sensory differences. We can't necessarily filter out all of these different inputs.
Yeah.
And there's emotional differences, and there's some evidence that we feel emotions in our bodies more intensely.
Okay.
So as a coach, I have done so much work to be able to be present. So I would say that one of the things that I lean into that might not sound like neurodivergence is I can hold space for deep emotions from
Mm.
anybody. When I'm in this coaching presence and I'm ready for you, you can bring anger, you can bring grief, you can bring deep sadness. It's not going to scare me. I'm always going to prioritize your well-being over whatever, over everything. And I don't know other than to say that people have said that and the fact that I am not judgmental. I've used so much of this stuff since I've learned about neurodivergence and coaching and how brains work, how people work. I just view most of this processing stuff as neutral. I don't view necessarily behaviors as neutral, right? Like there can be, I don't excuse harm, but I can, like the processing and the way you get there, I don't feel a need to fix anybody or change anybody. I can just be with this person who's in front of me. And that might not sound like a neurodivergent trait, but I do know that my neurodivergent clients haven't experienced a lot of that. Or
Mm,
the people who present in that way,
right.
whether or not they have disclosed who seem to, there's a relief in telling them, yeah, I see you seeing the world accurately. I see it too. There's a it can I prepared for this podcast by asking a couple of my neurodivergent leader friends, what should I raise up as important? And we all landed on how lonely it can feel.
Mm,
It can feel incredibly lonely to be noticing all of these different connections and these systemic things and how things are working and feel like you're the only one seeing these patterns. And because when you try to raise them up or bring them into conversation, you're greeted with kind of blank face or what or you need that care, but the rest of us don't need this stuff. Like it's a dismissive feeling instead of a
right.
of course you're feeling or a corrective feeling. Well, of course you feel that. You must have rejection sensitivity. The world is constantly giving me feedback all the
Right.
time. It's just a rational response to what's going
Yeah.
on. And I'm
Yeah.
feeling it deeply in my body. And I'm told that feeling is wrong. So I will say that's a long way to say I'm absolutely not a therapist, but I do think one of my gifts as a coach is, first of all, knowing where those lines are. And two, just being a validator and a witness to people's feelings. I've had multiple conversations where I've floated, hey, I bet you see more than some of the folks around you. And I wonder how that lands with you. And it's just like relief,
Right.
tears.
Yeah.
Yes, finally somebody has said it. So I think my gift is maybe in connection,
Mhm.
is not being afraid of people's emotions, is leaning
Right.
into people's emotions. And I don't know if that sounds like a neurodivergent trait, but I know that it does feel deeply connected to me, and it has served me really well with my neurodivergent clients.
There, I think from what I have seen and witnessed, first of all, with coaching alongside of you through our
Yeah.
wayfinding process, I've recognized that that is something that comes out in your coaching. So I think about that. I think it has to have a level of loneliness in terms of you when you how you describe seeing things so deeply,
Yeah.
not and not being able to actually show people what you see.
Yes. Like where's I keep coming back to the box top of the puzzle
Right.
pieces. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I think that's why we tend to be more inclusive because I know that's my style. I ask a lot
Mhm.
of questions, not
Mhm.
just because I'm a coach, because
Yeah.
I want to know, do you see the same thing? Do you have a duck?
Right.
Do you have a
Love a
robin?
duck.
What bird is this? What bird is this? Because it matters how we're
Yeah.
going to build the rest of our
Right.
strategy.
Yeah.
And other people are just like, I don't know, it's a bird. Let's just
Yeah.
it, or at least it feels that way. I won't
Mhm.
say that I shouldn't paint neurotypical people with a broad brush either, but it does feel like we're like, oh, she's asking questions. That's how it feels. So
Mhm.
it's on the inverse side or the
Yeah.
am I saying that right? The flip side.
Yeah.
It can be difficult. And I also work with my neurodivergent or potentially neurodivergent people on this. When people aren't naturally having a brain, like we are not linear. If someone is a linear thinker, it
Mhm.
can be difficult to interact with somebody who's a webbed thinker.
Totally. It's not even the same language. It's
Right.
like
Both of those
literally like
styles.
those two styles
Yes.
could just be like parallel train tracks in so many
Yeah.
ways.
And
Yeah.
both of those can be neurodivergent people, by the
Yeah,
way. So,
sure,
like,
of
I'm not
course.
even like, there's
Yeah.
complexity at all of these
Hmm.
levels, but
Hmm.
that's what I relate it to is when you are somebody who is a webbed thinker who's talking to a bunch of linear thinkers, trying to explain a vision is can be much like you just get
Yeah.
kind of like this blank look on you. People are not making the same connections that you are
Yeah.
seeing that seem very obvious to you. So it feels really difficult to start to explain these things because I can't tell where the disconnect starts, right? And
Right.
I'm sure it's vice versa. Somebody who is a
Yeah.
linear thinker trying to explain a thing to me is gonna be lost. So
Yeah.
it's that translation piece, but because we are literally less typical, we are less likely to resonate, I think, sometimes when we are describing.
Yeah.
Is that tracking? I feel like
That's
I
total.
feel like I feel like
No,
you're
no, that's
experiencing it in
sorry.
real time.
No, no,
I'm
no.
trying to show you my duck.
I, I can affirm it's a duck. It's a duck. But yeah, I no, I'm sorry. I was just lost in your what you were saying because I
No, yeah.
understand like
Oh,
like a lot of people when you hear someone, story's powerful, right? Story is
yeah,
like the most
yeah,
powerful way we
yeah.
have to communicate. Story transcends all of those things because it lifts off the expectation of how it needs to be processed. So when I hear you telling me a
Ooh,
story,
beautiful.
right? I hear
Yes.
you telling me a story, and I am processing that in accordance with the way that I,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
this is why
Yes.
story, this is one of the secret, I think, secret key supernatural mystical elements
Yeah,
of story,
yeah.
which is why story is so important for coaches to understand how to use and for leaders to understand. And for so
Yes.
long, leadership, storytelling and leadership has been like, you need to tell your people the story of where they're going and
Yes.
all those
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, and right? Like, okay, that's kind of like, yeah, everybody needs a story to believe in, but this is not, that's also a kind of a very westernized way of thinking. Like, we all need,
Totally. It's that
right?
personal brand thing that I
It's the
was talking about
personal
from 10
brand
years
thing.
ago.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but when we can actually, when we hear a story, someone's personal story, which is why we love coaching, when we hear and someone shares that story through their lens, we appreciate it through their lens, but we're also receiving it
Yes.
through who we
Yes.
are and through all of those
Yes.
values, which is why all those things are so, we consider them in our whole human model to be so elemental to how we connect with leaders and
Yes.
coach them, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I am, I'm, I want to be mindful of everybody's
Of
time because this
course. Yeah.
conversation could go on for hours, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
hold that thought, I'm going to make lunch and let's just keep talking. But, but I would love, Kara, for us to kind of leave this conversation today with two things that we want to offer people from, or I would like to invite you to offer people. Number one, I
Sure.
would love for you to offer a word of truth, a word of resonance for people who are leading for neurodivergency. So,
Sure.
or
Sure.
for inclusivity, like almost like on the other end of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
inclusivity.
Yeah.
What is a word of wisdom that you would give them as a leader to be able to connect with their people?
I I don't know how novel this is, but gosh, your curiosity and willingness to know our inner world is so powerful.
Hmm.
Rather than assuming where we're coming from, what our motivations are, you can learn so much by just asking a couple more questions. So if someone is asking, why are we doing this? It's not necessarily from how it feels like in subordination or questioning your authority. We just want to see what's on your puzzle box. Like
Oh,
we just want to understand so that we can show up and do a good job together. That really is, I think, one of the most common misunderstandings is that questions and clarity is the same as challenge, and it's often from a place of desire to be in sync. So
ooh,
just keep that in mind. It's
yeah,
not across the board, but it is, keep that in your mind that maybe if you ask a few more questions, like what would help you understand this better, might go a long way to letting that person know it's okay to ask those questions so that they can do a great job on this
yeah.
team.
Yeah, I love that phrase that those questions are coming from a desire to be in sync. And it's like, what
Absolutely.
if we made, if we were going to make one assumption, what if we made that the assumption of when someone asks?
That's the assumption that I would love to take away is we have a desire to connect. Yeah, that's been, at least from my lived experience, and I'm talking from like adults generally, but that we all have a desire to connect. All humans do.
Yeah,
But those of us who are neurodivergent, who are asking a bunch of questions, are not challenging authority. We are desiring an understanding of your
right,
inner world so we
right.
can match
Yeah,
puzzle boxes.
yeah, love that. Absolutely love that. Okay, and finally, Kara, what would you today like to leave someone who's listening and they already know or aware of the neurodivergency, or they suspect that
Yeah,
those elements are
yeah.
there for them? What would you like to leave them with?
Oh man, you don't have to rush this.
Mm,
Take your time. Take your time, explore, find social. If this is something that is resonating with you and you're like, oh, I wonder if that's me. The two ways that most adults, in at least from the literature and my colleagues' experiences, have been that you find out is either through these types of conversations where you're like, wait a minute, that feels true to me,
yeah,
or through a family member, usually a child, being diagnosed and being like, oh, there's a heavy genetic component, and that often unlocks some research phase, right? So
yeah,
take your time with that research phase.
yeah,
Include include not just the usual kind of stuff on Google, but include neurodivergent affirming communities and just
right.
oh, people are so willing to answer your questions,
Yeah.
man. I will say I don't, again, I always am like caveat because it's important for us as a
Mhm.
nerd to say it, but I don't speak for everyone. But man, we love answering questions. We love when people express curiosity,
Yeah.
want to know our world, want to help each other. It is
Right.
a very typically affirming space. So
Mm,
I encourage you to use all of the resources at your disposal and don't feel like you need to get it done in a weekend or a month or
mhm.
by end of Q4. Like
Yeah.
take as much time as you need because a lot of what this world does is rush us. And that is definitely something that works up against our nervous systems as neurodivergent people, being rushed. So take your time. There's no like
Mhm.
end goal. It's just all about understanding yourself and your needs so that you can better communicate them to other people so that we can be in better relationship together.
I love that. That's wise. Thank you. Kara, where can people find you in case they are wondering and would like to connect?
Sure, of course. Well as being part of Whole Human Collective,
Mhm.
which I love. You can find me at Liminal Spaces LLC.com is the name of my organization. And Kara at Liminal Spaces LLC.com is an easy way to reach me.
Amazing. Thank you. And if you are still here and if you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe and share it because this in particular was an especially important connection and conversation that we hope more people are having. Thanks for joining us.